Chris, what's up? It's me, Analog Attack, back again. Once again, I'm chuffed to have with me the one and only Mr. Chris Corry from Magic Circle. Chris, how you doing?
All right, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. It's really hot over here. Baking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But never mind that.
Yeah, what are we doing today? We both have on our cool three-quarter sleeve tour shirts.
Dude, the Raglan brothers.
Yes, brother.
So everybody, this is kind of a strange story. So a few days ago, Chris and I planned to do an episode about Martin Birch, right? And then we awoke this morning to the news that he'd passed away, which, Chris, quite a shocker, right?
Yeah, man. It's actually a huge bum out for me. He's
Yeah, I know.
definitely an idol
Yeah,
of
I know
mine.
you're a huge fan of him. So let's make this. This has turned out to be a tribute video, I guess. So let's make it a good one. Eh?
All right.
All right. So both I and Chris have picked out 5 records each, produced by Martin Birch. I have no idea what Chris has pulled out, right? Top secret.
I think you could probably guess a couple.
But yeah, I could kind of guess. So then I've got my 5. If we have time, we'll probably look at some others too. So Chris, and they're not in any kind of ranking or anything, well, mine aren't. So shall we get it going?
Yeah.
What's your first record, Chris? Let's have a little look.
All right. Let's start it off. Let's start it off right.
Oh,
Bam. MSG,
MSG.
Assault Attack.
Assault Attack. Analog Attack. Assault Attack on Analog Attack.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Dude, all right.
Tell me.
I mean, Martin Birch is the guy that invented how to record heavy metal, and we'll talk about that as we go on.
Okay.
But this is, I mean, at this point, he's absolutely perfected how to record like the new heavy metal of the 80s. This comes out in 1982.
Yeah.
He's recording this back to back with Saints and Sinners and A Number of the Beast. You know, imagine doing your job so well, being so good at your job that at the end of the calendar year, you can say, well, I recorded those 3 albums.
Yeah,
that's Martin Birch.
Yeah.
The drum attack on this is great. One thing for me, and we might talk about this a little more.
Sure.
Okay. He recorded every Rainbow record with Dio, and then he stopped working with Rainbow when they did Down to Earth.
Right.
Down to Earth is the first non-Dio album, and it's fronted by Graham Bonnet.
Right.
I would have loved to hear Martin Birch record that and engineer it. He didn't, but you get Graham Bonnet on this record.
Yeah. Yeah. So hang on. When did Down to Earth come out?
79.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Damn. But
they wasted no
80s.
time.
It's kind of, to me, it still sounds like a really 80s sounding record.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
You know, and Cozy Powell, who was on Down to Earth, also was meant to play on Assault Attack, and he bailed at the last minute. He's actually the one I think who brought Graham Bonnet in.
Wow.
He was there for rehearsals, and then he left and went on to Whitesnake, who you know Martin Birch also worked with that year.
Chris, is that American pressing that you just showed?
This is an American pressing, sir.
Okay.
Let's see. Might be British, but it's on Chrysalis, so probably British.
It's funny because last night I had this really strange dream.
Yeah.
You were in the dream, and you were sweating, and you were looking around for a Japanese copy of that record. And I woke up and just sat right beside my bed.
Oh, you son of a gun. You willed it into existence for me?
Yeah, so you can maybe you can compare them.
It's much appreciated, my friend. And I certainly will.
I have a little shameful secret about this record.
Go on.
I'd never heard it until about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
See, you could say that's shameful, but also now for the first time in your life, you get to enjoy it just a perfected.
I played that record like 5 times straight in a row. I was just blown away.
I mean, there's no question that's the one for the Michael Schenker group, and it's
Oh,
Martin Birch's
absolutely.
only producing credit. I don't think it's a coincidence, man.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and I was always just the first LP. I was like, that's all I need. The second LP is kind of not so good, in my opinion. So I was like, I don't really need to go any further. Do you know what I mean? I thought, wait, and
Yeah.
then I don't know why I bought it. I bought it, and then blown away. Absolutely amazing. What's your favorite song on this record?
Dude, my number one is Samurai.
That's
Just
cool.
that the way that thing kicks in with the guitar lead. I mean, that's as good as it gets for
That's
that
cool.
style of hard rock.
I'm gonna go with Desert Song.
Yeah, okay.
The
That's
chorus on
absolutely. I
that,
mean, that's a really good, kind of like almost a sequel. It feels like a response to Gates of Babylon
right?
in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny. I played that record to someone who doesn't really know anything about rock or metal. They know Iron Maiden. Put the record on and they said, "This sounds like Iron Maiden." That the drum, the gallop in the first song, and they said the
Absolutely.
way it sounds like Iron Maiden. I was like, "Oh, yeah, it kind of does." I don't know. It was just interesting comment from someone from the outside.
I mean, I can see.
Mm.
All right, what do you got, man? What's your
Well, Chris, I've got 5, and what I've done, not in a contrarian way, and these are not my favorite 5 Martin Birch produced records. But I thought I'd kind of shine a spotlight on some records that maybe, you know, people are maybe not aware that he produced, or might be a little bit surprised by, or if they haven't heard them, they might go and check them out because they
I
were
like that.
produced by Martin Birch. So, and they're in chronological order. So, 1970, the Groundhogs.
All right. And
Thank
that's
Christ.
Thank Christ for the Bomb.
Thank Christ for the bomb. And as you were saying with the MSG record, it was the only MSG record that he produced. It's possibly the best MSG record, and I think exactly the same applies to this record to me. I mean, the Groundhogs have a big discography. This was the only record that he produced. Sounds amazing, and people call it blues rock. It's way beyond blues rock. This record. I mean, yeah.
One thing I know about the Groundhogs is Bobby Liebling, who's sort of like the
Right.
main man for Pentagram,
Right.
was really influenced by the Groundhogs in his songwriting, and it makes sense, right?
Makes sense. I mean, this song. I mean, the first couple of records were definitely blues rock, but on this record, it's way beyond, just your standard British blues rock at the time. It's I don't
But I
want to
think
say proto punk because I don't really like that term, but it kind of is too. I mean, Cherry Red's not on that record. That's on Split. That's my second favorite Groundhog record. But yeah,
they're an American band, right?
I tell you
No,
what,
but
do you know why I know about the Groundhogs?
tell me.
Because of the Apostles.
Ah,
Andy Martin from the Apostles was a huge Groundhogs fan, and they even do some Groundhogs covers on some of their records. And second Groundhogs record is called Blues Obituary,
okay.
and the Apostles have a record called Punk Obituary. So,
In your squat days, were you hanging out with the Apostles?
oh my God, no! I mean, I know guys who lived in that squat. Let's not go too much into that now because it's about it's about Martin Birch. But it's interesting that I got into the Groundhogs from that. But anyway, Martin Birch fans, if you've never heard this Groundhogs record, check it out.
Well, dude, he did a lot of blues rock records, and
Yeah,
when a lot of the obituaries they talk about Iron Maiden, Black
right,
Sabbath,
right.
Deep Purple, but he did all,
Well, that's
like I was saying before, he did the first Faces record.
right. That's kind
He
of why
did,
I went this way just for this episode, just to kind of put a spotlight on other stuff that he's done. So,
but that's cool, man.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like it.
Thanks, man.
You want to do number 4?
Go ahead, my man.
All right. This is an easy
Oh,
one.
Oh,
Now, and mine's I got some of these '70s versions come with this cool little handwritten
right.
lyric sheet, like a
Oh,
lyric poster.
right.
This isn't my favorite Deep Purple. I mean,
Mine
it's up
neither.
there,
Mine neither.
but
Mm.
dude, this album is legendary for, like, first of all, I mean, the story is in the song "Smoke on the Water," right?
Yeah.
Because the casino where they're supposed to make the record
With the
burns down.
Frank Zappa's
Frank
mobile.
Zappa and the Mothers
Yeah.
played a show. Someone shot a flare gun. They burnt the place down to the ground.
Smoke on the
And so
yeah.
they find an empty resort in Switzerland. They take the rolling trucks, the Rolling Stones truck.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They run the cable up through one of the windows,
Right.
and they cut this record in the hallway.
I feel like I've seen like a documentary about that.
There's a couple like sort of Deep Purple retrospectives, but the
Right.
thing is, if you look
Mm.
in the record,
Yeah.
there's all these photos of the sessions, and so even just looking at the record, you feel like you feel like you've seen a documentary on it.
Right.
There's even a picture of the place burning.
Wow.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so I was thinking about, I don't smoke pot.
Me neither.
I'm letting everybody on YouTube know. I don't know if you do, but this is kind
No.
of like
No.
okay, good for you. This is kind of a pothead thing because
I
so I was taking a shower this morning and I'm thinking, Smoke on the Water is like de facto the biggest hard rock song of the '70s.
absolutely.
If casino didn't burn down,
Mm.
they wouldn't have had to write a song about the casino burning down and recording in the hotel.
Right.
And then the song wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And then the biggest song of the '70s might not exist, man.
True. Yeah.
Look, this dude made a great sounding record in a fucking hallway.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And just total improvisation. That's like the most impressive.
Mm.
And I hate when people say stuff is punk that doesn't have anything to do with punk,
Yeah,
but
I
come
know.
on, like, he recorded in a hallway, man.
Yeah.
Like, and not only that, but I think this album is really where he refined his sound for the '70s, and it's one of the first In Rock by Deep Purple is really the first one, but this is the first one that probably most
Right.
people heard that had the heavy drums, had the thick bass, and then the really distorted guitar sound. We had Cream and Hendrix records before this, okay, but when you listen to the drums on those, they sound like pots and pans, and
Right.
I love those records, and I'm not disparaging the way they sound,
Right.
but in terms of hard rock and heavy metal, this was the record that set the bar and really laid the template for like how you make those bands sound on a record, and that
Right.
is Martin Birch. He
Yeah.
figured it out in 1972, and then he does it again in the '80s.
Yeah.
So in terms of like importance, and I mean, I know we both said this isn't our favorite Purple record, but this is my first Purple record, and it's incredible, wall to wall hits.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Standards, not just Smoke on the Water, but if you play Highway Star in a bar,
Yeah.
to this day, people know what that song is.
The drum
And it's 50
sound
years
on
old.
that. The drum sound on that song is incredible.
And like I said, the guy had lemons and made lemonade. I mean, I won't say anymore. We all know it's a legendary album, but this is absolutely number 4 on the list.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Now show me what you got.
All right. I'm going to stick with my theme of maybe slightly lesser known records, and this is Skid Row, their second record.
Not Sebastian Bach's Skid Row.
No. Yeah. Irish blues rock record. Gary Moore, of course, he was like 17 or 18 years old. It's called
God rest his
34
soul.
Hours because it was recorded in 34 hours, apparently. And there's actually a picture of Martin Birch in the gatefold sleeve.
Right.
I'll try and... Can you see that?
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah,
in the denim gear there.
yeah, yeah. And then it says, what does it say? PPS. Special thanks to Martin Birch for a great engineering job. It says like, yeah. And then he would go on to produce like one Gary Moore solo record, I believe in the,
It's
like,
not back on the streets, right? It's
no, that's a good one. But there's one more record that he produced. Yeah, I mean Skid Row, Irish blues rock band, heavy record. Um, Chris, I have a question for you. I forgot to ask you.
yeah.
Sorry. Engineer, producer, briefly, what's the difference? Because I don't know.
In the context of like the way it would have been on these records, what we're
Right.
talking about, an engineer, when someone's credited as being the engineer, it's the
Mm.
guy that's, working the actual mixing board, setting
Okay.
up the microphones,
Right.
operating the tape machine, and he did that for all these records.
Right.
There's some records he's not credited as a producer on, and a
Mm.
producer in the case of albums like this is used to denote somebody that's like almost like a spiritual guide
All
for
right.
the sessions, like steering the vibe, maybe saying things. So an engineer isn't going to say like you need to double that chorus or you
Right.
need to cut that solo. That's what your producer is going to be saying.
Okay.
So like for instance, on Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, the first
Right.
album, Birch is just an engineer on that
Right.
session, but it
Yeah,
sounds great.
it's just I noticed four of the records that I pulled out. It's Martin Birch, engineer. Is written.
As you go forward,
Yeah.
so because I'm guessing you probably picked some of the earlier blues rock
Yes.
stuff where
Yeah.
he was, kind of just a guy for hire. But once he started doing a lot of work with Deep Purple, he started getting producers credits.
Right.
And in some of these cases, he may have been an uncredited producer, but it's
Right.
just kind of a royalty or payment type thing that
Okay. All right.
got him
Thanks
credited
for
only.
thanks for clearing that up. Okay. What's next up?
For me,
Three.
number 3,
Oh,
Iron Maiden Powerslave.
Powerslave.
This is not my favorite Maiden record, but I love it.
Mm.
But I think for his Maiden, I mean, every Maiden record that Martin Birch made sounds great, with the exception of maybe one, and that's not his fault.
No Prayer for the Dying.
Yeah, it
Mm.
doesn't sound bad. It was in a rickety studio.
That
The
really
band was really
sounds-
lethargic.
Really
It's just
sounds like an '80s record.
Yeah.
'80s in the bad kind of meaning of the word.
It's just not right.
No,
But
it's not right.
But Powerslave is great.
Yeah.
Powerslave is, I think, maybe his best guitar sound for them. And again, they all sound good, but this
Right.
one just a tiny bit better. The it's sort of it's the second record with Nico. The one where he kind of like maybe dialed him in a little more, and it
Right.
sounds just right.
Right.
This Steve Harris sounds a little bit fuller, than Peace of Mind. And just in terms of like hits, like if I was gonna try and play like someone was like, well, what is Iron Maiden? What does it sound like? I would play Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight, which are the first two songs on here.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain amount of finesse, a certain amount of producing to pull off songs like that.
Right.
And I credit that in a big way to Martin Birch.
Yeah.
But also he was able to sort of take these really epic songs, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and Powerslave. And I think, there's a lot of producers' touches there. The things like the ship sounds and the chimes and stuff in Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. He made that all like very palatable for a 12-minute song or whatever it is, And I mean, it's just the record, like you feel that the same energy that you get listening to this as when you're watching them live. And I think that, it's so simple the way he does it, but that's why it feels so good. And it's kind of just the the ultimate realization of that first run of Maiden records.
I think pretty much every record that he produced, just you put on it, just sounds good. Like if
I
you,
mean,
like you play it on a high end record player, you hear it on the radio, like it sounds good wherever you're listening to it. It just I don't know.
well, I figured out pretty early on, because the first few Birch records that I heard were like Number of the Beast, Heaven and Hell, uh, Rainbow Rising, and when it hit me that the same guy made all these records, and that's when I knew if you see his name on the record, it's going to be something special.
Right.
And he was so lucky and privileged to work with very talented rock bands.
Right.
And just elevate them that extra step.
Yeah.
I mean,
Steve
so here's wait. I gotta say this.
Okay,
I was talking to the boys today,
okay,
and I was saying, Martin Birch oversaw the singer change for 3 enormous bands.
Right.
Okay, because he produces Number of the Beast, which is the Bruce Dickinson transition to Iron Maiden. He produces Burn, which is the Coverdale Hughes transition to Deep Purple.
Right.
And he produces Heaven and Hell, which is the Dio transition to Black Sabbath, which was a really fraught recording session. And not only did he do a great job in bringing a new sound to each of those bands while still keeping it familiar sounding, but all those records charted, all those records are hits, and they're now all like all-time classics. That's insane. That one guy did all, and he did all that like within 10 years of each other. And I mean, Michael Schenker, the third record, that's a singer transition too. Graham Bonnet didn't stick around very long, but so
I saw Iron Maiden in that 1 year transition period, Killers tour, and then kind of I guess Number of the Beast tour, like in that 1 year.
I know you said it before, but you did say you saw Maiden when Eddie was just a roadie in a rubber mask, right?
Yeah.
Probably terrible, not worth seeing, I assume.
Martin Birch. Okay, I guess it's my next one, right?
Yeah.
So we were just talking about Switzerland.
Okay.
By a strange coincidence, I happen to have a record by a band from Switzerland. A band.
I do know which one.
Toad.
Excellent.
And this is kind of a dodgy bootleg copy, but it still sounds good. It's not even Akama. And I have no idea how now I'm thinking about it. Did they meet him when they were in Switzerland? I have no idea.
That record's from '72, right?
Yeah.
Who's the original label? Was it a Warner's production?
I could be. I'm sorry. I should have checked that. But it's incredibly heavy. They've got an amazing guitar player. It's one of those records. I don't know if you remember, like about 10 or 15 years ago, there was suddenly that thing where everyone was like looking for obscure, like heavy rock records that sounded like Black Sabbath and this, that, and the other. And people started buying like Blood Rock and Bang and digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And a lot of records with one heavy song and a lot of ballads, but this is a killer record, and I don't know how popular they became, if anything at all. I think kind of obscure band, I guess.
Yeah, I'd put it definitely in the same camp as like Bang and Leaf Hounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Buffalo.
Exactly. So I picked this just because, again, if you're a big fan of Martin Birch's work and you want to dig a little bit deeper, go back to like 1972 Swiss heavy rock band Toad. I mean, come on, it's amazing, and it does sound amazing. I didn't even I know this record, but actually I didn't know it was produced by Martin Birch, but I loved it, and I loved the way it sounded, and I found out, I was like, Jesus, yeah, like it was a kind of an added bonus, to this record.
It was cool because, like, I mean, like, how many times have you listened to like Rainbow Rising? But when you think of you know, it's cool to hear him work with a band that like maybe doesn't have known personalities and known egos, and to
Right.
see how that works out. And
Yeah.
it's cool because he still gives it the same
Oh,
care and the same detail, and
I
it's
mean,
just like every time this
it
guy
does.
hits
It
it.
has his sound all over it. I mean, it's just an amazing sounding record. Yeah. So everybody, Toad, Switzerland, 1972.
Yeah,
Mark.
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, Chris,
All right,
what's up? Oh,
number two.
oh, that's a different Japanese pressing than the one I have.
Now, I could be mistaken.
Looks like a
Somebody out
fur.
there in the comments can let us know, but I think this is the first Japanese pressing with the pink obi
I
strip.
think, well, usually the rule is the wider the obi, the older it is.
I didn't know that, but that's a good pro
There's
tip.
exceptions to the rule, but yeah, yeah. Mm.
I mean, it's like this is for hard rock. The only thing that's probably been more important to me personally is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
Right.
But this record sounds better than that, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
straight
it
up.
does. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And you know, so one thing I mean, so if this is the first Rainbow album with Cozy Powell, that instantly elevates it another
Right.
step for me. And you know, at the time, Cozy Powell wanted a bigger, like more booming drum sound,
Got
and
it.
Birch put him out in the stairwell. They recorded these drums in the stairwell, as I understand it.
Right.
Which means I probably read it in a Martin Popoff biography. Thanks again to that, Martin.
Yeah.
But I mean, first of all, this is I can't think of a record before this because this is 76 and Overkill is 78. I can't
Right.
think of a record before this that has this much double kick
Right.
as a main beat. And when you get to a Light in the Black, um, I mean that's a driving double kick beat,
Yeah.
you know. And so Martin Birch is the first guy to like have to figure out like how do you place that in the
Right.
mix. And you know, like now it's a normal thing. We hear it on, you know, most of the new metal records
Right.
that have come out for the past 30 years. But
Yes.
this is basically, as far as I can remember, where it starts. You get like a insanely good Ronnie Dio performance,
Right.
a really wild Richie Blackmore performance, great keyboards from Tony Carey, Jimmy Bain on bass, and again, it's like it's not that ornate for what it is, for especially a record where the B side is essentially two 10-minute songs, you know, plus or minus, you know, maybe the nine
Um,
and a half minutes or whatever.
no ballads, right?
No ballads.
No ballads.
Um, for what this is, you know, you would think, you know, something that's going to have these like long running epic songs is going to have a bunch of transitions and, you know, overdubs, but it pretty much sounds like a band just playing together in a room. It sounds like a very good room,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of extra stuff. And that's sort of what I think he really is best at is there's like a real relationship between what you're hearing and what was going on. You hear the relationship between the guitar player and the keyboard player and the drummer and the singer. It's all, you know, it all feels like if you were sitting right there watching it happen.
Yeah, I think so.
And no album like personifies that to me better than Rainbow Rising.
Yeah.
It's just it's his best sounding record of the 70s.
I think so too. Yeah.
And sadly, you know, I don't want to say it, but there's only one guy left that's involved. The big man, the man in black.
Yeah.
Because
Richard.
now that we've lost Martin Birch, I mean, this
Yeah.
entire record is, you know, guys that have passed on. And
Right.
rest in peace to the greats.
Classic record. Okay, I guess I'm gonna kind of stick with my theme. This is a little bit of a more well-known record though, so
Yeah.
Wishbone Ash. August. The third Wishbone Ash record. The third
I got my
record.
Wishbone Ash records here. I just
There you
want to.
go. Again, going back to the same thing. This is my favorite Wishbone Ash record. Produced by Martin Birch, even though he produced the first three. And I'm wondering, is this where he kind of mastered the art of the twin guitar sound before? how to produce those twin guitars before working with Iron Maiden, because Iron Maiden, big Steve Harris is a big Wishbone Ash fan, right?
He's a big prog guy, and
Right.
yeah, I mean, so I'm positive that he would have known Mark. I mean, he would have known him from Deep Purple, but I'm
Well,
positive that he would
there's
have
a
known him
thing.
from
Yeah,
Wishbone.
there's a thing. He wanted to ask Martin Birch to produce the first album, right? But
Right.
he was like, there's no way he's going to say yes. And then later, apparently Martin was like, why didn't you ask me? Kind of thing.
So wait, that brings up a question that
Hmm.
I listen, folks. I talk to Mike at times that are not being recorded
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
YouTube,
yeah, yeah.
and you were asking me about a record that I wish that he had produced, and like first Iron Maiden record would be a
Yeah,
great
that's a good
example.
one. Yeah,
Is there one that you could think of you
I did
wish he had
actually.
produced?
I did. It might be a little bit of a strange choice. I don't know, just because I'm a big fan of this record, and it is nicely produced. I was kind of gonna go with this one,
Oh, that's a great one.
right? I mean, Chris, Sangarides, who's also passed away,
Yep.
did a good job, but like, I just was thinking, Brian Birch,
What if?
what if, what could have been? That's because it's kind of right up his alley, this record. Right? So
Yeah, I feel like he could have steered that someplace really cool.
slightly, yeah. So that was one of the ones. But you could say like the easy answer is like every rock record from 1970s.
Well, here I got two for you. All right, so I pitched the question to my friend Justin, who he plays bass in Magic
All right,
Circle,
Justin
and he's
DeVore.
in innumerable forms,
Yeah.
Summerlands, and many more.
Okay.
And he said, you know what I really wish he had done is Queen Sheer Heart Attack.
Oh, that's a good choice. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a smart guy, smarter than me.
Yeah, I
Um,
just went with Tigers of Pantang, but that's much better.
so the one I was gonna say, and it's not as cool as that. It's probably kind of obvious, but I love Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers, but for continuity, and that's the last Purple record that
Yeah,
really means a lot to me. But for continuity's sake, man, I wish
right,
that they had Martin Birch work the
right,
boards on that.
right.
And it's a great, it's actually a really good sounding record
Yeah,
and strong songs, strong
right,
performances. But it would have been a nice way to sort of close that loop for
absolutely.
me. So
Yeah.
that's my pick.
Okay, Chris, we have 7 minutes. Let's do our last.
Oh, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, no, we got one more each, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well, you know what mine is because I'm wearing the shirt.
Come on, bring it on. Bring
This
it on.
is it. The Mob Rules.
Oh, hang on a minute. Different. This isn't in
Mine's
my-
wider, dude.
I just thought you'd pick it, so I just plucked it out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, sonically, the best sounding heavy record ever. I'll take that to my grave.
Really?
I've never heard a better heavy metal record just in terms of how it sounds. It's the best sounding Martin Birch record of the 80s. And again, I don't think this was an easy record to produce. I think these guys were at odds for a lot of it.
Right.
And it just comes out sounding so put together and so consistent.
Right.
And I mean, what can you say? It's almost like they took all of the things that people thought Black Sabbath sounded like and made a record based on that.
Right.
You know, so it's like heavier and spookier and you know, more evil sounding, but it's just it's done with such class. And then you
What's
come to
your
that
favorite?
last song over and over.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's his favorite? That. Oh man.
I mean, you know, it leaves me in tears every time. I think I just hit my mic. Sorry.
It's definitely one of Tony Iommi's like best guitar solos.
It's unbelievable, and they never played that song live ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
For me,
and
I was always
Falling Off the Edge of the World also.
also is good. For me, I'm not going to go into it now. It's not fair, but I always thought that was kind of like this album's version of "Lonely Is the Word," which is not really fair to say. It's like in the last song, a slower track with those great guitar solos, but
It's comparable, but I think over and over, just it's like Lonely Is the World, but just pumped up even bigger. The drums, Vinny Appice I mean, Vinny Peach's performance alone makes the record, and the way that his stuff sounds, and I feel like an idiot just saying like everything's great, everything's perfect, but everything is great, everything is perfect. And Martin Birch did it, and he did it again and again. And he's been retired since 1992, but I'm sad that he's gone.
Yeah.
What's your final pick?
This one is kind of a little bit of a more obvious one, I guess, but it's a long time favorite of mine. Whitesnake. Ready and Willing. I think I bought this when it came out. I didn't even know about production and engineers and all that stuff when I was like 14 years old. But even then, I knew, wow, this record like has a certain kind of warmth or a certain sound to it that I really like. And I mean, I love all the songs as well, obviously, but I like the cover as well. But this is probably my favorite Whitesnake record because I've sort of been with it since I was a kid. And yeah,
It's certainly the best of the blues rock era.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to say one thing, and I guess I want to bet this is David Coverdale, because it's the Martin Headmaster Birch. That was like his most famous nickname, but on this it has produced, engineered, and mixed by Martin Basher Birch. Now I don't know what that means, but I bet David Coverdale came up with that. I bet he did.
And Coverdale was like the first guy to sort of post on social media that he had passed. That was the source that a lot of places.
I think someone sent me that link. I think, and then that's how I knew.
I gotta say, one thing I love about that album is it's kind of, because it has Ian Pace and John Lord on it, and just the overall vibe of it. It's kind of a follow up to Come Taste the Band. And I love this album, man. People rag on it. They say it's just people are like, oh, it's just a Whitesnake album. Like, that's a bad thing. I mean,
I just did a ranking the Deep Purple albums, and that one right now for me is right up there near the top these days.
I would say it might be my number 4.
Well, I think I had mine at like number 3, and people were going crazy. It's like, what the hell?
Look, Tommy Bolin is hungry on that record, and he is there to prove that he belongs in that band. And whatever happened on the tour after happened, but the record that they made, it's unbelievably underrated. And wonderfully produced.
People will come around to it.
I think so. Everything gets reevaluated eventually.
Exactly. Okay.
Are there any we missed?
1 minute left.
1 minute left.
Question, but but if you just got something to add, please go ahead, man.
Ask me a question.
I was just going to ask you, like, what do you think of Come and Get It in production terms compared to? I had some theories. Maybe we can get into.
What's your theory? Give me the theory, and we'll sign off with it.
Like, it's kind of deep. Like for me, this sounds like, I like Heaven and Hell, sound-wise, better than Mob Rules, and like, just personally, and I think this is a similar thing for me, where this is kind of like Whitesnake's Mob Rules. It kind of sounds really different to Heaven and Hell.
It's wider.
It's the same timeline too.
Because that's 1980, the same year as Heaven and Hell.
So I was wondering, like, there's something different about both of those two sets of records.
I wonder what that is. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, and it could have been like a dry run for that.
Yeah. All right, I think we're done.
All right, we miss you, Chris. Martin Birch.
Rest in peace, Martin.
Rest in peace.
See you again, Chris.
Peace. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks, man. Loved it. Take care, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.